Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining me today because we have some very exciting General Hospital news to talk about, and it's definitely worth the wait. I have to tell you, I've been sitting with my coffee lately, just the regular kind, nothing fancy, and watching everything unfold in General Hospital has really kept my mind busy in the best way. There are moments when I lean back in my chair and just think, oh my goodness, how did things get this tangled? It almost feels like I'm right there in Port Charles, watching all these lives collide in ways nobody saw coming. What really caught my attention recently is this whole situation around Lucas and the accusation tied to Marco's death. I remember watching Cassius come in with that calm but uneasy energy, the kind of person who speaks softly but somehow shifts the whole room. And when he started suggesting that Lucas might be involved, I'll be honest with you, I paused my show for a second. Not because I believed it, but because it felt like one of those classic soap moments where one small piece of information gets twisted into something much bigger and much more dangerous. From where I sit, Lucas has always felt like one of those characters who tries to do the right thing even when life around him gets messy. So hearing his name connected to something as serious as Marco's death just didn't sit right with me. It's like when you hear a rumor in a small town in America, you know how people say, well, that doesn't sound like him at all. That was exactly my reaction. But then things got even more complicated with Jen Sidwell entering the picture. Now there's a man who carries anger like it's second nature. I could almost feel his frustration through the screen. That deep need to find someone to blame. Anyone really, just to make sense of the chaos. I've seen people like that in stories before. When grief or rage takes over, logic becomes the first thing to disappear. And honestly, watching him consider Lucas as a possible target made me uneasy, because you can just tell this isn't going to end cleanly. What makes it even more unsettling is how Cassius seems to be playing both sides in all of this. I don't fully trust his intentions, and I kept thinking while watching, this guy knows more than he's letting on. There's something about the way he feeds information into Jen's ear that feels carefully chosen, like every word is placed just right to push things in a certain direction. It reminded me of those old American sayings like stirring the pot or lighting a match in a dry field. You just know something's going to catch fire sooner or later. And then there's the twist involving Ross Cullum. Now that's where things really start to feel dangerous. The idea that he might actually be the real person behind Marco's death changes everything. I found myself thinking how often in stories like this, the truth sits quietly in the background while innocent people start getting pulled into blame. It's almost painful to watch Lucas being dragged closer and closer to something he never did. What really stays with me is the thought that Cullum knows Lucas is getting too close to the truth. That kind of awareness always leads to trouble. And when Pascal gets pulled into the situation, things get even more uneasy. There's this sense that Pascal is being used, maybe not fully understanding how deep the situation really goes. The idea that Marco's phone might be used as a way to frame Lucas feels like one of those classic soap moves where technology becomes a weapon instead of a tool. I kept thinking about how easily misunderstandings can spiral in this world. One wrong assumption, one piece of manipulated evidence, and suddenly someone's entire life is on the line. It makes me think of how people in real life sometimes say, it only takes one bad break, and that feels very true here. What adds another layer of tension is the possibility that Jens might fully accept this false narrative about Lucas. I can almost picture him reaching that point where anger overrides doubt, where he just needs a conclusion, even if it's the wrong one. That kind of emotional decision-making never leads anywhere good. I've seen enough of these stories to know that when someone becomes both judge and jury in their own mind, things spiral fast. And still, through all of this, I keep coming back to Lucas. There's something deeply tragic about a character who is loyal in love, who cares deeply, and yet ends up caught in something so far beyond his control. It reminds me of those moments in older American dramas where the good-hearted character just cannot seem to catch a break, no matter how much they try to do right. I also can't ignore the subtle possibility that Pascal might not be as innocent as he appears. Whether he is being manipulated or acting out of his own interests, I keep sensing that his choices are going to matter a lot in what happens next. It feels like he is standing at a crossroads without fully realizing how important that moment is. At the end of the day, what I'm left with is this uneasy feeling like watching storm clouds gathering over a quiet town. You know something is coming, you just don't know who it's going to hit first. And in true General Hospital fashion, it looks like the truth, the lies, and the emotions are all about to collide in a way that nobody can fully control. I find myself thinking about these characters even after I stop watching, like they've settled into the back of my mind. And maybe that's what keeps me coming back. It's not just the drama, it's the feeling that underneath all the chaos, there are real human emotions driving everything. Love, grief, anger, and the desperate need to be understood. And honestly, I'm just sitting here like everyone else, waiting to see who ends up telling the truth first and who ends up paying the price for all the lies that came before it. I have to tell you, the way things are unfolding right now has me both intrigued and a little uneasy, like I'm watching a slow storm roll in over a quiet neighborhood. Everything around Lucas just keeps tightening, and I can't shake the feeling that he's being pushed into a corner he didn't deserve. When I think about Lucas and Pascal both being at Windermere, it honestly gives me that anything can happen now feeling. You know that kind of place in these stories where secrets don't stay hidden for long? That's exactly what Windermere feels like right now. And the idea that Pascal could slip into Lucas's room while everything is quiet, well, that's the kind of moment where my instincts just say, oh no, this is going to turn bad fast. What really unsettles me is how easily something personal, like a phone, just a simple object, can be turned into a weapon in this situation. The thought of Marco's phone being planted in Lucas's belongings doesn't even feel far-fetched anymore. It feels planned, it feels calculated, and I keep thinking this isn't just about evidence anymore, it's about control. It's about shaping a story that isn't true and making others believe it. I can almost picture Pascal standing there trying to convince Jen Sidwell that searching Lucas's room is the right thing to do. And that's where things get even more dangerous, because once people start believing they're uncovering truth, they stop questioning whether they're being guided into a trap. It reminds me of something I once heard: when you go looking for guilt, you usually find what someone else already placed there. And Sidwell, well, he's in a very dark emotional space right now. I keep seeing him as someone who is not thinking clearly, someone who is letting anger do the driving. That combination, anger plus influence from someone like Pascal, is never a good mix. It makes everything feel unstable, like one wrong step, and things could spiral beyond repair. What really made me pause is the idea that Lucas could end up in real physical danger if things escalate. There's a point in these storylines where accusations stop being just words and they start becoming actions with real consequences. The thought of Sidwell turning to violence, especially with weapons involved, changes the whole atmosphere. It's no longer just about proving innocence, it becomes about survival. And yet, through all of this, I still can't let go of how wrong it feels to see Lucas in this position. There's something deeply unsettling about watching a character who seems grounded and decent being pulled into something so chaotic and manipulated. It gives me that old familiar soap feeling where you want to reach through the screen and say, wait, that's not the truth, you've got it all wrong. At the same time, I can't ignore the possibility that Pascal isn't just a pawn in all of this. There are moments when his actions feel too intentional, too carefully timed. It makes me wonder if he is shaping events more than he is simply reacting to them. And if that's true, then Lucas is standing in the middle of something far more dangerous than he realizes. I keep thinking about how quickly trust can be turned upside down in situations like this. One planted piece of evidence, one manipulated conversation, and suddenly the entire direction of someone's life changes. It's unsettling because it feels believable in a human way, like how misunderstandings in real life sometimes grow far bigger than they should, just because no one stops to ask the right question at the right time. And now I find myself wondering what Lucas might do if he realizes what's happening around him. There's a quiet kind of tension building there, like he could either break under pressure or finally push back in a way nobody expects. That's the part I'm most curious about right now, not just whether he clears his name, but how far he might go when he realizes how deeply he's been trapped in someone else's scheme. So I'm watching all of this unfold with that mix of concern and anticipation that only a show like this can really create. Every new piece of information feels like it's pulling the story tighter, and I can't help but feel that the next turn is going to change everything for Lucas in a way that no one is fully ready for.